Hello. It is becoming one of the most persistent natural disasters being experienced across cities and towns in Nigeria. It is flooding, and this is the third edition of our program on flooding for the year, perhaps because of the persistent nature of that menace. And now, good evening and welcome to Weekend File. Here we go. Flood has continued to ravage parts of Nigeria and indeed the world, leaving behind avalanche of destroyed property, especially residential buildings, rendering thousands of people homeless. It is pertinent to note that the recent flooding in Benue State affected all the 6 local governments predicted by the Nigerian Meteorological Agency as the areas of possible flooding in 2017. They include Makurdi, Buruku, Guma, Taka, Lugo, and Agatu. Communities in these council areas have lost the most essentials of livelihood, including farmland. And other communities in Katsina and Lokoja had their share of the fast-moving flood occasioned by torrential downpours measuring up to between 4 and 6 inches. Other incidents of excessive rainfall within the year flooded communities in Oka, Anambra State, Suleja in Niger, Lagos, Katsina, Ibadan, and Abakaliki in Ebonyi State. Some Nigerians think that flood in Nigeria is partly terrifying result of negligence from relevant authorities, while others point to lack of adequate preventive mechanism in flood-prone coastal areas located in the lowest part of the nation. Although this year's flooding is not as destructive as that of 2012, but there is enormous devastation of those affected, partly blamed on poor urban planning and changes in climate, which caused torrential rainfalls in the first place. It appears that flooding has come to stay. And what is the way going forward in the mitigation efforts and preparedness of the relevant authorities to provide assistance to the victims? You are on to Weekend File. Stay with us for further analysis of flooding in Nigeria. And my name is Kurian Umayo. Thanks for choosing to stay with us on the show today. And now we bring you the news. At least 19 people have been reported dead and more than 5 injured at Ancha community of Mango Basa local government area as unknown gunmen launched attack on the community. Plateau State Commissioner for Police, Babatunde Ogunyawo, who confirmed the attack, also paraded a 24-year-old 300-level physics student at the University of Port Harcourt, Ifeanyi Chukwu Maxwell, who escaped detention in Port Harcourt for alleged ritual killing. Achias Giopez has that report.
Police commissioner said items recovered at the scene of the crime includes 11 expanded shell of 7.6mm ammunition and 1 live ammunition. Although no arrest has been made, the police boss said investigations into the killing are ongoing.
This incident seems to be a reprisal attack on an alleged killing of a Fulani boy who committed mischief. So in that incident, 5 people had been arrested.
Meanwhile, a detachment of police mobile force as well as other security operatives have been deployed to the area to forestall law and order.
What we don't want is for the community that was attacked to go on another reprisal attack. When you do that one, you make investigation and prosecution difficult.
In the meantime, a suspected ritual killer who is also a 300-level physics student of the University of Port Harcourt, Ifeanyi Maxwell DK, who escaped from police detention in Port Harcourt, has been apprehended by the Plateau State Police Command. The police commissioner who paraded him to newsmen said the suspect was arrested in Birkin Ladi. In Jos, Ashezigo Pep, NTA News.
And in the development, President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed sadness over the senseless killing of persons, especially women and children, in a night attack on Ancha village in Basa local government area of Plateau State. The president equally expressed disappointment at the disruption of peace and normalcy that have reasonably taken root in the state and urged stakeholders not to allow this violent incident to destroy the progress made so far. A statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, indicates that the President said it is unlawful for anyone or group to take laws into their hands. President Buhari, of course, on the killings, said that nobody should take laws into their hand or even try to revenge or reprisals. He urged aggrieved persons to always follow due process by allowing law enforcement agencies to fish out any aggressors to face justice. The president further reiterated the determination of the federal government to protect the lives and property of all citizens wherever they reside, while directing law enforcement agencies to apprehend the perpetrators of the acts and their sponsors. Some workable agreements have been reached in the ongoing conciliatory meeting to end the industrial dispute embarked upon by members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities ASU after a 14-hour deliberation. The meeting addressed the 7 issues raised by ASU and a new proposal made which is to be considered by the union within 1 week. Emmanuel Animiro tells us more.
The team agreed that funding must be made available for the revitalization of the university system. The quarterly payment of the 2009 agreement, which was stopped in 2014, is to continue this September by the government. Shortfall in salaries to be addressed, court judgment concerning staff school to be respected. Others include approval for the establishment of National University Pension Commission, implementation of an allowances and TSA.
We decided that there is an agreement for government to make some fund available in September and October to show that they are not repudiating the agreement and to also show sign of good faith. However, because of inability of government to pay the required amount, which is 220 billion, a 7-man committee was proposed, and the ASU leadership is expected to send in 3 nominees into this committee.
We discussed and we have reached agreement, and ASU is going to consult with its principals and come back to government within a week.
Had very useful deliberations. Now we have some concrete proposals that we will take back to our members as part of our consultation.
A 7-member committee is expected to be constituted to actualize the aspirations of the 2013 Memorandum of Understanding without prejudice to the Babalakins Committee on the renegotiation of the 2009 Federal Government ASU Agreement. Emmanuel Ayemiro, NTA News.
The National Executive Meeting of the Conference of Alumni Associations of Nigerian Universities, KANU, has called on ASU to suspend its ongoing strike while the dialogue with the federal government continues. The appeal was made at the 2017 third quarter meeting of the body in Abuja. Ogechi Paul reports that the Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development delivered a keynote paper at the event.
Friends of Alumni Associations of Nigerian Universities, KANU, provides a platform for the joint consideration of challenges and actions that affect university education in Nigeria, be it federal, state or privately owned tertiary institution. The 2017 third quarter meeting of the National Executive Committee of the body has observed the negative implications of the ongoing ASU strike, particularly on the students, and appeals that it be called off.
We appeal to the members of ASU to please go back to classroom and the laboratories so that and give peace a chance so that the federal government will now settle the issue that had been tabled before them once and for all.
Keynote speaker at the opening of the conference, Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development, Aisha Jumei Hassan, challenged the body to think up with the present quality of university education.
Will the graduates of these universities fold their hands and allow the quality of education and indeed the worth of the degrees of their universities to fall? Certainly not. That is where the relevance of alumni associations comes in.
A communique is expected at the end of the meeting. Ogechi Paul, NTA News.
Project coordinator of Hydrocarbon Pollution Restoration Project, HIREP, Marvin Dekil, has explained that the work on the Ogoni cleanup is progressing according to plans. Briefing the State House correspondents at the presidential villa, Dekil said his office is working closely with experts and other stakeholders, including the people of the area, who are showing great understanding on the need for a successful remediation of the polluted areas and the restoration of livelihood for the people. Jide Onifade reports.
The coordinator explains that the process, though seems slow, underneath serious activities are ongoing that would facilitate effective cleanup of the Ogoni polluted environment. For example, as he says, the people have been well sensitized and are now highly desirous of the project and are cooperating with government.
Right now, which is in process, is to rehabilitate those existing water facilities. That is ongoing. We are also looking at the permanent option for providing water in these communities. For us to do a comprehensive and a professional remediation work, we do need to capture the current contamination status of the site. And so that is one of the things that we will be doing going forward. We've advertised, following the government procurement laws, for environmental experts to come on so that we will do that bit.
Work on the restoration project, as he explains, is also taking into cognizance the United Nations Environment Programme's assessment report and recommendations made.
And the important thing is that this process has started. Like he said, the report was ready 2011, and nothing happened between 2011 and the time that we came in to put this in process. So we have started. We're going to do it diligently. We're going to ensure that the right thing is done, but it's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen, and we want people to be patient and understand that the Buhari administration is committed to clean up Ogoni and entirely the whole of Nigeria Delta.
It would be recalled that Vice President Yemi Osinbajo and the then Minister of Environment, upon the instruction of the President, visited the Ogoni land and flagged off the commencement of the cleanup project. In the State House, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
Now, international donor ambassadors have commended National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, for the effective and rapid response to affected disaster areas and immediate provision of succor to the victims in Nigeria. The donor ambassador said this at a meeting with NEMA to strategize on more effective ways of giving hope to the victims of disaster. Ilyasu Ali Yakubu completes the report.
Strategies with NEMA to map out most effective ways of attending to the needs of victims of disaster. While commiserating with the federal government over the recent flood disaster that ravaged most part of the country, the donor ambassadors appealed to the federal government to intensify efforts at winning the peace in the northeast.
Every step where the government takes ownership and leadership is a very positive development, and this was a very important part of our meeting today.
We are very happy to work with NEMA and all the other actors. So I think this was a very good meeting and also informative.
Director General of NEMA, Mustafa Mehaja, said the meeting is geared towards improving operations of humanitarian intervention.
Extending a lot of humanitarian assistance to Nigeria. NEMA being the coordinating body of all humanitarian activities, felt we must sit and discuss their operations and how to synergize in a better way for effective and efficient operations.
The meeting is expected to also harmonize operations of humanitarian intervention for effective delivery. In Abuja, Ilyasu Ali Yakubu, NTA News.
Nigeria has found a willing partner in Israel in her bid to tackle water and environmental challenges in the country. The Minister of Water Resources, Suleiman Adamu, while receiving a delegation from the Israeli embassy, reiterated Nigeria's commitment to improving water and sanitation. Timothy Yusuf has that report.
The saying, water is life, underscores the importance of water to human existence. That explains the importance being attached to water management across the globe. Like most developing countries, Nigeria has been grappling with water management and has recently come up with a roadmap to address these challenges. One country that is a success story in water management is Israel. That country's ambassador to Nigeria, Guy Feldman, while on a visit to the Ministry of Water Resources, offered to assist Nigeria to manage her water resources and environmental challenges.
But how do you get water into the pipe? How do you manage that? How do you reuse it? What about the people drinking?
Nigeria's Minister of Water Resources, Suleiman Adamu, welcomed the development.
It's part of my aspirations as minister is to popularize drip irrigation in Nigeria. And for us to be able to do that, we need to get the economy of scale so that the cost can be affordable to farmers.
The partnership is expected to commence later this month at the biennial Water Technology and Environmental Control Exhibition and conference scheduled for Israel. In Abuja, Timothy Yusuf, NT News.
The Democratic People's Republic of Korea, DPRK, says it is not the enemy of the world. Rather, it is committed to developing the technological potential of its people and defending their sovereignty. Ambassador of North Korea to Nigeria said this during the activities to mark the 69th anniversary of the country. Patricia Samiluba was at the embassy and now reports.
Korea, or better known as the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, DPRK. Whenever the name is mentioned these days, what jumps to mind is the nuclear warfare, the threat, and the skirmishes in the North Korean peninsula. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea was founded on September 9th. 69 years has passed since the historic day, which is seen as a patriotic legacy of its leaders, who are also the founding fathers of the Socialist Korea and the eternal son of the Korean people.
Today, the DPRK has been consolidated and developed a political power.
Korea is launching those missiles in the true sense of the word that they want to create a balanced nuclear war.
North Korea has been under economic sanction for the past 3 decades, and they have persevered.
The traditional relationship of the friendship and cooperation between Nigeria and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea have further consolidated and developed.
The anniversary, therefore, which celebrates both its independence and development, is being marked by the country's foreign mission around the world to facilitate better understanding of Korea's foreign policy. In Abuja, Patricia Samiluba, NTA News.
And now you can watch this news live online via the NTA mobile app, which you can download on your Android device at the Google Play Store or at the Apple Store if you use devices with iOS. Now you are watching Weekend File on the network service of the NTA. Since 2012, Nigeria had been experiencing annual flooding of various degrees cutting across the 6 geopolitical zones. That of 2012 was described as worst in 40 years, which affected an estimated total of 7 million people and losses put at 2.6 trillion naira. The floods that came in the successive years, including this year, clearly indicate that something needs to be done and urgently to mitigate flooding, as well as have efficient response mechanism to assist the affected people. Our correspondents will be reporting from our 5 broadcasting zones on the flood incidents, and that is next on Weekend File.
From 1967 to 1970, Nigeria went through a horrifying civil war. It didn't matter who was wrong or right. Everybody suffered. Those who fought that war say it should never happen again.
So a lot of people will say, but you were leading the first one. Yes, I led the first one. I don't think a second one is necessary. We should have learned from that first one. Otherwise, the dead would have been to no avail, could all have been in vain.
The words of our elders are full of wisdom.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Nigeria is a strong emerging world economy with a population of over 170 million people. With the diligent work of the Standards Organization of Nigeria, in line with the federal government's economic diversification agenda, SON has put in place accredited laboratories to ensure that made in Nigeria products meet international standards and ready for export. SON regularly conducts products registration, certifications, factory inspections, monitoring, a metrology laboratory to get accurate measurements, while SONCAP checks the conformity of imported products and the SON Legal Act to prosecute offenders. Don't sell and don't buy substandard products. Before you buy, look well. See something, say something, or call these numbers. SON, improving life through standards.
Availability, check. Confidentiality, check. Integrity, check. Transformation in action. The 6 years of Governor Abdul Aziz Abubakar Yari in Zamfara State clearly manifest good governance and foresight. In fact, transforming the agrarian state to the promised land. Welcome to Zamfara, a state being governed by a visionary and dynamic leader whose magic finger is touching every aspect of human lives. No wonder Abdul Aziz Yari is being referred as agent of Buhari's change mantra. Yari is bringing development closer to the Zamfara people and the nation at large. Zamfara, the pride of the nation. This message is brought to you by Iowa Media Group.
We want to buy Indomie noodles. 4 packs, please. Yo. This is not my Indomie. Please, sir, if it's not Indomie, don't call it Indomie.
Sir, the taste is the difference. The difference is in the taste. That's why my brothers, my mommy, my daddy, and I all enjoy our delicious, so very delicious Indomie noodles. The difference is the taste.
Taste is the difference.
Yes. Difference is in the taste. Nothing tastes like my Indomie.
Indomie noodles, tasty nutrition, good for you.
Dear Nigerians, let's safeguard our lives and properties against flood. Did you know that flood is a natural or man-made disaster that has affected thousands, with many lives lost and properties damaged? Change begins with you and me. Do not build houses along waterways and flood-prone areas. If you live around flood-prone areas, please start considering relocating to avoid losses. Avoid dumping of refuse in gutter and water channels. Frequently clear your drainages and waterways. Always listen to weather forecast on television and radio. Adhere and take seriously early warning alerts from relevant authorities. And in case of emergency, call 0800-2255-6362. Remember, disaster management is everybody's business. This message is from the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. NEMA, for the sake of the distressed.
The Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development is organizing a 3-day national conference on the transformation of Nigeria's livestock industry. Date: 12 to 14 September 2017. Time: now 2 p.m. on the first day and 9 a.m. subsequently. Any inconvenience caused by this change is highly regretted. Venue: International Conference Center, Abuja. Special guest of honor: His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria. Chief host: Audu Ogbe, OFR, Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development. Invited guests include governors, National Assembly members, ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, development partners, delegates from ECOWAS countries, commissioners of agriculture in the 36 states of the Federation, as well as the FCT, professionals in the livestock industry, traditional rulers, farmers, and pastoralists. Announcer: Dr. Bukar Hassan, Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and rural development.
The National Judicial Council will, in line with the provision of Section 15 of the Pension Reform Act 2014 and as part of the implementation of the issuance of federal government retirement bonds, commence an enrollment exercise for the employees of the federal judiciary who retired from service after attaining 60 years of age or 35 years in service. The affected retired employees will be physically enrolled, except for medically unfit retirees who will be represented by their next of kins. The exercise will commence on the 11th to 27th of September 2017. Please note that only retirees who have been enrolled will be issued the federal government bonds, which will be liquidated and paid into their retirement savings account with their respective pension fund administrators. See national dailies for details of designated venues, dates, and the requirements of relevant documents for the enrollment. Signed, Management, National Judicial Council, NJC.
The Nigerian Institute of Animal Science and Animal Science Association of Nigeria announces the 6th Joint Annual Meeting. Theme: Sustainable Livestock Production for National Development. Speakers: Professor Father Godfrey Nzamujo, Director, Songhai Center, Port Novo, Republic of Benin, and other speakers. Date: 10th to 14th September 2017. Tuesday, 12th September by 9 a.m. Opening ceremony, induction of associate and registered animal scientists and investiture of fellows. Venue: NAF Conference Center, Kado, Abuja. Chief host: Chief Audu Ube, Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Professor Eustace A. Iyayi, Registrar and CEO, NIAS. Announcer.
And we thank you for staying with us on Weekend File up till this moment. Now, with more states admitted into the pitiable world of flood, issues of welfare for victims, possible causes and preventive measures have formed major points of public discourse. Mayor Ogidi, in this lead report, recounts the ordeals of the victims and what needs to be done.
This season usually runs from July to September in Nigeria, and every year it poses threats of devastation and destruction. So far this year, several people have lost their lives and hundreds of residential dwellings submerged. It's been so destructive in many states like Plateau, Rivers and Anambra, but the torrential rains on the 8th and 9th of July 2017 gave permission to the flood to ravage Niger and Lagos states. In Niger State, for instance, a 37-year-old tea seller, Saidu Abubakar, lost 6 children and 2 wives after the rains. As of 10th July 2017, NEMA figures indicate that 25 persons have lost their lives to the 2017 flood. While many were still in that mournful and unrecovered mood, Benue, Ebonyi and Kwara states recorded high presence of the flood as over 100,000 people were displaced in Benue State. In all of these, sundry factors have been fingered as major causes, ranging from building on low water plains, poor drainage system, poor town planning, indiscriminate waste disposal, rains and climate change, to poor maintenance of dams, non-completion and their closeness to towns and villages. From the above, only one factor is natural, that is evident poor. The rest are man-made, hence there is much the government and individuals can do to mitigate flooding. Experts, however, advise that effective town planning, respecting construction rules and regulations, and rooting out corruption in the building certification process will be of great help in controlling flood, especially in the urban areas. Mayor Ogidi, NTA News.
Now, flood-prone communities in Sokoto State have continued to stay at home despite, of course, warnings from concerned authorities. Mohamed Nasir visited some of these communities and will tell us more now.
And numerous flood-prone areas that have experienced devastations whenever it occurs. There are also human actions that contributed to the occurrence of flood, such as dumping of refuse in drainages and building on waterway. People living in this area in Gandhi community in Raba local government is one of the flood-prone areas where even without warning, whenever it rains heavily, they experience flooding. One problem is that every year they face this problem, but they couldn't move from this area to other location.
We are not willing to relocate to another place. We like this place, though some people leave when flood waters come.
When
the flood comes, it usually submerges the area.
All stakeholders, they have their own role, and they will play their own role. And inshallah, the issue of devastating disaster in Sokoto, Kiba, and Zamfara will be a thing of the past.
Started having some of these kind of disasters. Right now I'm talking to you, my staff are in Tambol and Shagari local governments on the assessment of disaster assessment.
Past governments have undoubtedly made efforts in improving environmental sanitation. However, the tremendous growth in the population and especially the lukewarm attitude of our people on issues relating to environmental sanitation has been derailing such efforts.
Even before the heavily downpour usually experienced in August and September. This is the situation in Gende town of Rabba local government. People of this community has to be transported this way through canoes to link with other communities. In Sokoto, Muhammad Nasir, NTA News.
Thank you indeed, Mohammed. But refusing to leave a flood-prone area could be a big and dangerous risk. Now, preparatory to the relocation of flood victims, Kogi State government has designated some centers as temporary camps for internally displaced persons. This is coming at the heels of the rising water level in the River Niger and the flash floods that wreaked havoc to some parts of the state. Solomon Ayedehin reports.
Level in River Niger is fast rising, posing serious danger to those living in flood-prone areas. Already, flash flood has hit Serike Noma, Natako, Felele, Ganaja, and Nadankolo areas of Lokoja, while parts of Ibaji and some flood-prone local government areas have started experiencing the disaster.
From last week, we've been having a lot of massive reports. The rains have started, the places are flooding.
Victims of the disaster are already counting their losses as residential buildings and public utilities are gradually coming under floodwaters.
What is a very, very big havoc to us. People like us that we are living here today, you can see, we don't have where to stay now, we don't have where to live now.
All my clothes now I lose. All my clothes to Tradition CD.
If we pack our things out of this place now, we don't have anywhere to go. That's why we are staying here.
Need to see what is coming first before we can run.
The Kogi State Commissioner for Environment, Mrs. Rosemary Osikoya, said tens of thousands of houses have already been affected. She urged those living in flood-prone areas to relocate to the displaced persons camps that are being established in designated areas across the state to mitigate the effects of the disaster.
We had done massive sensitization. We've used all medium. Government has sent out people to local communities. There have been one-on-one interface with the communities to be affected, and we've been following the trend across the 9 riverine flood-prone local government area.
Kogi is among the states in Nigeria expected to experience flood this year. Solomon Ayedehin for Weekend File.
Now, the people of Ebonyi State over the years have constantly taken in victims of flooding, which contributes to about 50% loss of farm produce and property worth billions of naira. Chika Okorie reports.
The impact of flooding has been on a steady proportion for over a period of time in the state, rendering many homeless, loss of property and farmlands worth billions of naira. Aside aggressive campaign against practices capable of increasing the natural disaster at all levels, the state government has commenced the rebuilding of prone areas by opening up water channels and relocation of settlements along the waterways.
Revocation order and all the properties are within the part of the river. If there are structures we can save, we have to save it.
Over 250,000 hectares of arable land lying along the Cross River Basin, favorable for rice cultivation, which Ebonyi State has comparative advantage on, remain underutilized due to perennial flooding.
Ordinarily, without flood, we would have been hitting maybe between 800,000 to 1 million tons.
Town planning should do something so that people building can also at the same time talk of water harvesting structures on their building.
With the experiences so far, the people are calling for intensified advocacy on the dynamics of flooding, develop good drainage system, and rehabilitation of victims. In Abakaliki, Chika Okore, NTA News.
The recent flood that wreaked havoc to various communities in Benue State also sacked both young and old from their homes, destroying valuable property. Now, Charles Abba, who monitored the situation, reports that both federal and state governments, as well as public-spirited individuals, were prompt at providing the needed assistance.
In the state that swept through farms and homes, left behind thousands of people homeless, and destroyed property worth millions of naira. Although the cause has been hinged on the abandoned EDF flood basin drainage project.
The people are building along the road, keep building everywhere. It's not fair. We can't continue to take it like this.
The response of the federal government was swift, as the Director General, NEMA, the Minister of Environment, and the Director General, Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, embarked on impact assessment visit to the state.
We know people are in serious devastating situation. They require some quick assistance, and we provided this.
And there are no adequate provision in terms of drainage facilities.
The latest is the visit of the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, where he assured the state government of assistance in construction of viable drainage and dredging of the river Benue as a permanent solution to the menace. While over 500 of the affected persons are in the camp provided by the state government, majority of the victims prefer to hang around their remaining belongings.
There are places where 75% of our intervention is focused outside the camp because the majority of the victims are not in the camp.
As the people continue to ponder on what the future holds for them, they are optimistic that the right approach on time by the relevant authorities will wipe the tears on their face. In Makudi, Charles Abba.
And we're still watching Weekend File on the network service of the NTA. Now, next is the conversation segment, and when we have the Director General of the National Emergency Management Agency. That is when we come back. Return, we continue with the program.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
I was distressed to notice that some of the comments, especially in the social media, have crossed our national red lines by daring to question our collective existence as a nation. This is a step too far.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Bayes University Abuja offers world-class education, uninterrupted academic session, and promising degrees. Bayes University Abuja is affordable and delivers quality with experienced international staff, superb facilities, overseas external examiners, and a serene academic atmosphere. We offer quality and affordable education, and students are within easy reach of their parents here at Bayes University Abuja. So learn to live at Bayes University for a brighter future. For more information, visit our website at www.bayesuniversity.edu.ng or call 081 3376 9657 or 081 3376 9658. Bayes University Abuja. Learn to live.
This is the game I've been waiting for, and I get a headache. But I remembered Mom's advice.
Son, don't let anything stop you, okay?
When headache strikes, I always trust Sudrex because Sudrex acts fast to relieve headaches. Sudrex, win your day.
Now, joining me live here in our studios in Abuja is the Director General of National Emergency Management Agency, Engineer Mustafa Mehaja. So it's good to have you join us tonight on tonight's edition of Weekend File.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Now, in the past couple of months, if you like, Nigeria has been experiencing flooding from almost all the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. Now, could you bring us up to speed, with what your experience has been like? Because you and your men are always the people, in the forefront of mitigation or providing assistance to the victims of floods.
Yeah, it is worrisome. It is disturbing, but that is the consequences of disasters. That is why we always come out to mitigate, to prepare people against disasters that are usually either natural or man-made. In most cases and present circumstances, the contribution of man activities, human activities, contribute to the devastating nature of disasters, not only in Nigeria, globally.
All right, and what has been your experience been like? With the fact that you have been in the operations, in the field with your men, trying to provide assistance needed by victims, because invariably in every flooding situation there are victims who would have lost all their belongings to flooding. And from your experience, what usually is the immediate need of those victims, especially women and children?
Well, the immediate need is mainly food. For somebody who lost his household items, he needs food. In many circumstances, medicines and drugs and other related items. They need mattresses for sleeping and mosquito nets and some few items of that nature. And this is what NEMA move in as a relief materials in any situation where there are disasters, not only flooding. These are the immediate needs. We call it pre-assessment deliveries, which we often take immediately it happens.
Now, what's the situation like in Makurdi and rather in Benue State, because many communities were affected in Benue State and then Lokoja. These are the most recent flooding situation we have on our hands now. What has the situation been with respect to providing succor to the victims?
As usual, we moved into Makurdi and the state generally swiftly. We moved the pre-assessment items. One important thing that was worked in our favor, the water receded quickly, under 48 hours. That made a lot of the victims to even return to their houses, clean up the mess and remain there. So that is why the camp was not, did not experience mass inflow of the affected people. So this are my experience, the people, I mean, not only that, as a coordinating agency of all stakeholders, I quickly moved in to speak with the Nigerian Air Force, whom I know they have the necessary facilities and equipments medical facilities. The Chief of Air Staff was so magnanimous. We spoke on Friday last week. He moved in medical supplies and personnel on Saturday, and they are taking care of the victims that need medical assistance.
All right, now could you share NEMA's operational method with us? Because oftentimes, NEMA is accused of inadequate preparations, late response, and insufficient materials needed by the victims.
I wouldn't like to blow my trumpet, but since I came 4 months plus ago, the situation was different. Maybe you are recalling the previous activities of NEMA, but for now, in line with the change agenda of the President Muhammadu Buhari, no one should portray or exhibit the aspect of laxity everybody is on his toes, and we moved in, and then we provided the needed support, and there we go.
Now, what have you done differently?
Well, in terms of swiftness, it was fast. Under 24 hours, we are there. Take the case of Kogi. It's not yet assessment of flooding, but we are already there. 3 camps has been earmarked, been prepared, should in case the flood go beyond what it is now. So we approach it with sometimes prepare for it before it even happens, just like the case of Kogi.
Engineer Mehaja, let's look at the sources, of the relief materials that you give to victims of flood. How are these materials sourced, and how fast do you receive such materials when such incidents occur?
No, it's an emergency organization. We are backed by law in our response. We moved in and get the materials as quickly as possible in emergency situation, and we provide them. Sometimes we stock them, those that we can stock, but like something like perishable items you can't stock. You procure them in emergency and supply them.
But there might be agencies or individuals or organizations who also render assistance to you by way of assisting NEMA in the provision of the needed items.
When there are serious issues like the case of Makodi and Northeast, many agencies, individuals come up with their support. We use them in many cases, but such kind of support only come after the disasters. But pre-disaster and immediately after disaster, we supply them.
Now, what do you make of people who refuse to leave, flood-prone area, especially when we have accurate prediction? We saw in the report from Sokoto that some people refused actually to leave, when they have been warned to do that, because perhaps in a couple of days or thereabouts that there could be flooding in their area.
This is one of the major challenges NEMA and other agencies are currently facing, but through perseverance, through some advocacy, some moves, but majority of people do not move. What is required in such kind of a situation is enforcement. Enforcement is not should not be used unless it is absolutely necessary. So no enforcement so far have been done, but many has moved, but a lot decided to stay back. But with advocacy, with awareness, sensitization campaign, you move some. This is the situation.
Yeah. Now, does NEMA have the capacity, to provide assistance to victims in all parts of this country? Do you have that capacity, the operational capacity, the infrastructure, the personnel, and other things you might need?
Yes, when you said a perfect situation, no, we can't have a perfect situation. What we do, we have a structure whereby all the 6 geopolitical zones have a zonal office. We have operational office where needed. We have 7 operational office. All are adequately staffed. Should there be, in case of any eventualities, depending on where we move in our personnel. But don't forget, there are international agencies, NGOs, international NGOs that form part of the architecture of emergency operations. They also assist. Our own is to coordinate their activities, coordinate the operation, set up the camp where necessary, and moved in.
All right, now let's look at the situation of flood victims over the years, starting from 2012. There are people who, we are told, are yet to resettle, in their ancestral homes. People who are still, staying in makeshift, camps, as the case may be. What is the fate of such people?
Well, it's not to my knowledge if there are people still living since 2012 in makeshift, camps. But the reality is, in collaboration with the Presidential Committee on Flooding, some homes were built and are yet to be handed over to NEMA or any other agencies that's supposed to do it. But the moment we do that, we will move them. But I don't think so far, to the best of my knowledge, if there are people still since 2012 being camped somewhere.
Now, Engineer Mehaja, it does seem that this flooding has come to stay. it's been there for a while now, starting from 2012. Each year, Nigeria experiences some form of flooding or the other in almost all parts of the geopolitical zone. Now, what would be your advice, with respect to mitigation mechanism that could be put in place, especially when, the period begins to draw nearer, and of course when we have been able to establish the coastal areas, that are prone to flooding?
First of all, I want to make you understand that the issue of flooding is a global phenomenon. It's as a result of human activities. There is desertification in the case of Africa. There is issue of industrialization, which come along with climate change. These are the consequences of flooding. Flooding cannot be stopped by Nigeria or its government, but flooding, like you said, we have to mitigate the flooding. We do that at SNEMA. We carry a lot of awareness campaign, sensitization campaign. The major issue Nigeria or the state government should do, enforcement as regard to building plans. Enforcement, all the urban development must be made to do the needful to make sure that people do not build along the river course. Dumping of refuse must be stopped in the drainages. These are the first immediate thing we must do. In the long term, we must create, we must do proper engineering where it's needed, like the case of Makodi. We need to do proper engineering because Makodi is in the low, topographically, it's very low.
Precisely. All right, at this point I'd like to thank you because time is not on our side. Thank you very much indeed for your insight. We appreciate that. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
Yes, I've been speaking with Engineer Mustafa Mehaja, who is the Director General of the National Emergency Management Agency. You're also watching Weekend Fire, and of course a story that has to do with the flooding. Touched by the magnitude of the human suffering and the level of devastation of the recent flood in Benue State, Nigerians from all walks of life have continued to respond to the plight of the displaced persons with various donations of relief materials. Worthy of note is 105-year-old woman with her 75-year-old daughter who benefited from the donations. Blessing Omeche Ebude has the rest of this report.
At her age of 105 can easily be said to have seen her better days, which her presence at the camp definitely cannot be referred to as one of them. Therefore, the distribution of relief materials from which she also benefited is said to not only be timely but soothing. Other donations range from mattresses, food items, toiletries, among others. Worthy of note is the donation by the delegation from the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP.
We are here to provide psychosocial support officially. When things like this happen, people are traumatized.
Another is the donation by the resident pastor of the House on the Rock Church Makudi, Pastor Abel Uloko, on behalf of the General Overseer. Following complaints from some of the affected persons about unequal distribution of previously donated items, the delegation from the church went round to ensure equitable distribution of the items. Others who visited the camp include the Pharmacy Society of Nigeria, which donated drugs worth 2.5 million naira, and the Uzo Tiv. In Makudi, Blessing Omeche Ebute, NTA News.
And you're still watching Weekend File. Sports is next. Especially, well, of course, we want to tell you that the NTA showcased one of the last, matches of the MPFL today, and that will be when we're at time.
Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, is working to ensure access to safe, good quality essential medicines with the World Health Organization pre-qualification of made in Nigeria pharmaceutical products, stiffer penalties for fake drug offenders with a review of NAFDAC laws, national, regional, and international collaborations, cutting-edge technologies, including the mobile authentication service.
NAFDAC as an agency is indeed doing so much to protect the health of our nation. I urge everyone to support NAFDAC in ridding the country of fake drugs and unwholesome products.
Let us support NAFDAC to win the war against fake drugs and other unwholesome regulated products. NAFDAC, safeguarding the health of the nation.
Plateau United with historic league title as the curtain draws on the 2016-2017 league season. Third National Youth Games commences in Ilorin, Kwara State. These and more in our sports update with Henry Efium.